Hey guys, welcome back. This is your host Phil from underKG.com, and today we are going to take a look on the Xiaomi Mi Pad 4. It's a small Android tablet on a budget, which is a pretty rare market these days. Firstly, the design. As a tablet, there really aren't many things to talk about. There's a display, front-facing camera, and that's pretty much it. There are no buttons. On the back, however, is some of the similarities from one of the leading tablets, so to say, I mean iPad. Although this is not an LTE model, there is an antenna cutout to let the Wi-Fi signals go through. There's a little camera that protrudes ever so slightly, and the rest of it is a single plate of metal. This is in black, obviously, which is one of the two colors available, and while this is matte, not glossy, it does collect fingerprint in its own way, so keep that in mind if you get a sweaty palm like I do. Again, I really like the size of it, although the side bezels are a bit thinner than they have to. It's not a problem at all when you're holding in landscape, but when you hold it in portrait like this, a portion of your palm is going to block some of the view, and there were some accidental touches. Not a lot, but there clearly were some. And talking about that 8 inches of display, it's not exactly perfect. The color reproduction isn't great, whichever mode that you choose out of the 3 contrast mode, or any of the white balance that you can customize with any point on the screen. And even without the screen protector, there is a noticeable amount of reflection. At least it doesn't have the empty space between the screen and the touchscreen panel like the 6th generation iPad or the older iPad Air, but nevertheless, this isn't going to be the best screen that you've seen on a tablet. While this doesn't have a fingerprint reader, unlocking the device is fairly simple with the face recognition through the front-facing camera. You just turn it on and bring your screen and it's unlocked. I use my tablet lying down on the flat surface a lot, like a table, but you will have to raise your tablet so the front-facing camera can actually see you. Performance-wise, the Snapdragon 660 is a pretty powerful chipset. It has a CPU performance around Snapdragon 821 and 835, and GPU performance of Snapdragon 821. So in other words, it's powerful enough to run most of your favorite 3D games. One major downside that you might want to know is the DRM thing. The Widevine CDM security level has to be L1 to support Netflix HD for security reasons, but this only supports up to L3, which is going to allow you to stream only up to SD resolution of Netflix contents. Plus, it doesn't have full suite of sensors, especially its missing orientation sensor used for maps. The software that runs the whole system is MIUI 9.6 based on Android 8.1 Oreo, and while the MIUI 9 series is a whole lot better than the previous versions, it's not exactly great for the tablet, albeit that is usually the case for the Android tablets anyway. Some items just take up too much space, like the notification bar, or look at the calendar, which is a big chunk of number, and this August label doesn't even fit into space. And even worse, there is no separate DPI selection. There is font size, and this somehow manages the DPI levels a little bit, but most of the UI elements are way too big even on the smallest level of text size. And it's not that Xiaomi doesn't want you to utilize a full screen. So there is a gesture that you can switch from the buttons, which is a navigation bar right there. These are switchable, by the way, and you can switch it into the full screen gesture. So the navigation bar is hidden. You can swipe up to go home, swipe and hold for multitasking, and swipe from either side of the edge to go back. We've seen this from other devices, and this is not a bad idea, but it wasn't as easy to use as I thought. Just a smooth swiping isn't going to work. You have to swipe actually harder than you think. So I ended up going back to the classic good old buttons. Now, moving on to the multimedia department, something that was better than I thought was the camera. It's got f1.9 of 8 megapixels camera. The app looks like this. There aren't really many things that you can do. Just tap on it and it takes photo. And it took fairly good photos even under low lighting conditions, although HDR takes a long time to process the image. And also there really aren't that many options that you can switch from. You can't even change the photo resolution. And also the selfie cam is a disaster. Make sure to use it only for the Skype calls. The viewing angle is way too narrow for any type of selfie. Not that you'd want to take selfies with your tablet. Moving on to the audio department, it's surprisingly has stereo speakers right there too, both firing down side. They're loud, they sound pretty good, but I still don't get why both of them are at the same side. Had one of them been installed on top, it would have given a pretty nice stereo effect. If you want to use your headphones instead, there is a 3.5mm headphone jack on top, which sounds pretty nice, and there are a number of audio effects along with the equalizer available. Now, the battery life is also another important aspect on the tablets, and this one is just great. The screen on time lasts about 10 hours, which is as good as the iPad 6th generation. Of course, this is a Wi-Fi model, so if you have an LTE model, have an LTE connection all the time, you're probably gonna get an hour or two less than this. Something not as good is the charging speed. It's got USB-C port on the bottom, but there is no fast charging solution whatsoever. There's no Quick Charge 2.0, let alone USB PD standard. So topping the battery up is painfully slow. Half an hour is only gonna give you 21%, an hour equally as speedy as 40%, and fully charging the tablet is gonna take a whopping 3.5 hours. I know iPads with the bundle charger take even longer than that, so I'll let this one go, but that was one painfully long long charging time. And now that I told you this much, we have to get to the conclusion on the Mi Pad 4. A little more so than the competing products, this also isn't a perfect tablet. It's got a disappointing display, stereo speakers, so to say, are both firing down sides, it doesn't support Netflix HD, MIUI isn't perfect for tablets, and charging speed is really annoying. But one thing that compensates every downside of the tablet is the pricing. For the base model, they're selling this under $200 and even for the LTE model, they're asking something around $230, which sounds like and is a great bargain. The Android tablet market and tablet market overall are shrinking. They're, to be honest, falling to the ground. And the smaller tablet market like this one, 8-incher one, is especially very narrow. So I have to say I'm very glad to see this much of a good tablet for that amazing price with this good performance. It's lacking some important features, but this is one of the small number of small tablets that you can choose from, and it's a great one. There's a Mi Pad 4 Plus, which is a larger version of this with the larger battery, but still without the fast charging. I haven't tried it yet, but I presume it's going to be very similar to this one. Thank you always for watching. As always, if you have any questions, please leave them down in the comments. You can always meet us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and Google+. We'll see you guys later. Ciao.